Hi, my name is Rene, and in this video, I'm going to talk about the subject of the power of love in enlightenment. And basically, the reason I want to talk about it is because there's one big conflict between the research of near-death experiences and some of the study done on religion, and for instance, the Tibetan Book of the Dead, where I draw many parallels. And basically, the question is whether enlightenment, whether to reach heaven or to merge with the light, become one with light, is easy or difficult. And the conflict here is based on the fact, for instance, if we study some religions, or as I study the Tibetan Book of the Dead, it is usually because we have a tradition, it seems like it's very difficult. You have to practice a lot, in some traditions, many lifetimes, you have to be a master, and it's almost like it's a VIP status. That might be, I have to say. I'm not, I am not the authority to make the decision on, but I'm saying that there's a conflict here, because when we look at the research of near-death experiences, it seems that there is after you had a near-death experience, as I've had myself, there is no longer a fear of dying, because this light, where you're going is really, it's ultimate love, absolute peace, it's just pure joy. So there's no fear of dying anymore. So there's a kind of confidence among most people who have near-death experience. It's like studies show like 90% of people who are no longer afraid of death. And I'll just read one testimony here. It says that, one near-death experiencer here says, this is from my book, Awakening After Life, which is available on Amazon. I'm going to be reading from this book in this video. Here's one testimony. It says, I look forward to death with expectation of that wonderful joy and peace. And that is very general to the near-death experiences, that there is no fear of death, and people just know that when we die, we return to this light, and it's so hopeful. So here's a conflict. The Buddhist master might say, well, it's a kind of a lack of humility, because really to stay in the light, to become enlightened, is really difficult. And that's why I want to read a little bit from my book to kind of have a debate on this subject, to kind of open it up a little bit. I'm not saying I have the ultimate answer. I'm just saying that there is, in my view, that there is surrendering to the love could really be a door that is open to all of us. And as I explained in my other video on how to get to heaven, I had a testimony there from Howard Stong. And his conclusion was that even though he was trapped in hell, then what he did in this desperation, he said, in my desperation, I yelled out into the darkness, Jesus, please help me. And that was really what took him out of hell. In my own experience, it was the change from a negative mindset to a positive mindset. That was really my transition out of hell, you could say, out of the negative life review. So let's just look at this. Here, near-death researcher Nancy Evans Bush, she's been investigating negative experiences for more than 2 decades. And she agrees with what I said in the other movie, that either the call for help, as Storm does here, Jesus, please help me, could be anybody, any religious figure, or the surrender to this light, to this love, is really what can take us out of it. This is what liberates a person from the negative experience and opens the door to the light. This makes sense even from a Buddhist perspective, because non-attachment does not mean that the true nature of reality is actually empty. Emptiness is filled with love and compassion. And actually Buddhism tells us that this bliss of enlightenment is just like an orgasmic bliss of total union in just an explosion. So it's not empty as in a Western understanding. It is full of love and compassion. The ultimate reality is, quote, emptiness with a core of compassion. The heart of the emptiness is compassion, is love. And so enlightenment can be reached even without vast learning. This is my statement here. If we either remember our true nature, who am I, or think of its quality of love and compassion, we will end up in the same place, in, quote, what the Tibetan Book of the Dead calls the unity of emptiness and compassion. The Buddhist Guide to Liberation reveals that because, quote, the essence of these disturbing emotions which is the negativity, is essentially wisdom. It is possible to be liberated by recognizing their true nature. And this is the core, the heart of them is this compassion. This is also where the teacher or the master comes in as a helping guide towards enlightenment. This is what happened with the storm and his call for Jesus to help him. The devotion towards a teacher has a profound purpose because of the, quote, the connection between the blessings of the master's enlightened mind, your own openness to faith, and the truth of Dharma, which is like the truth, the path of truth in Buddhism, which is the natural state of wakefulness. So in short, the faith and devotion towards a teacher connects us to the enlightened energy of the true nature of reality. What this means is that if we have developed a habit or a reflex of praying during difficult times in our life, as here Storm he turns to, these prayers can now lead us into the light when we die. By remembering our teacher or any great holy person, like for example Christ, with all our heart and devotion, we will connect to the enlightened energy of love and compassion by the power of their blessing. The true nature of reality is behind many different paths. This is my belief. And whatever tool we use to get there is not important. It must be death is universal, so enlightenment and heaven must also be universal. Nobody can have a patent on something as big as this. No words can patent it. All we have to remember is that its essence is love and compassion. It loves us as a mother loves a child, and we become unified in the supreme union, this is what the Buddhists call it, by remembering the love that shines through the essence of this source. We can learn the same from the Sufi tradition. Here we find that a Sufi saint tells us about the secret that will scare hell away. Quote, O Lord, if you send me to hell on the morrow of the resurrection, I will reveal a secret such that hell will flee from me, not to return for 1,000 years. End quote. This is also what we find in the Bible. In Psalms 138, we are told that God is always present. Quote, if I ascend into heaven, thou wilt be there. If I lay down in hell, thou art there. End quote. The true nature of reality is love, and thereby God's love is always there with us, even behind our creation of hell. I explained before that the creation of hell is a projection. We project negativity into this dimension, and that's really our own manifestation of hell in our own mind. Just as we do it in this world. When we have a negative mind state, we are in hell. So it is when we leave the body, just much more powerful. So to get out of hell, all we have to do is remember and think of love. This is also what we can learn from the near-death experience, where the love and compassion of the light is always present behind whatever we might project into it. This is what Dr. Peter Fenwick explained. I explained in the other video. The homecoming, the feeling of absolute love, peace, and joy is the essence of the light. It is at the heart of the light in the near-death experience. This is the secret that will make hell flee away from us, not to return for 1,000 years. Also Dante, he told us about entering the gates of heaven. Quote, the only way to pass is through the heart center. In The Dreamer's Book of the Dead by Robert Moss, he explains that if you are not yet ready to trust yourself to the saving power of love, you are not prepared for death nor for life. End quote. This is ultimately true, and at the same time the reason that love is the only win-win situation. By choosing love while we live in this world, we win both in this dimension and in the next. I wish you good luck on this path. May all beings be happy and reach heaven and enlightenment.